Hello, dears. Hello, friends. Dears, welcome to the Mary Real Student. That's my TikTok name, and then Mary Real Swedish Chapters. That's my YouTube channel. Yes, dears. Let me ask you, if you are new here, you may, share, like, and even consider subscribing. I'll be honored. Dears, I've been thinking a lot lately, and even before, maybe. Those of you who know me, I'm a Catholic. Yes. I'm not saying I'm perfect in any way, but I was born Catholic, raised Catholic, and I will die Catholic. Yes. Having said that, I've made some challenges. Yes, dears. Here in the West, the word with divorce, like divorce is quite known. People, don't love each other. They decide, they divorce or they separate. Yes, dear. So I had to do some digging. Yes. So, dear, let me tell you what I found. Disclaimer, dears. I'm not, talking for the Catholic Church officially or whatever. I'm just, gathering information and sharing it. So if you have any, opinion, if something I've said, offended you, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry in advance. Someone was talking about Catholic Church divorcing, like if someone divorces and all that. And then then another one said annulment. Yes, and I've heard about annulment. Like in Uganda, they don't, when I was growing up, they didn't teach us so much about this annulment. What we knew was that Catholic Church, you don't divorce. Yes, it's super important. Once you get, married in the Catholic Church, you don't divorce. That's why they are super, they are so, very good at careful, like finding out, that if there is anything impending, the couple's marriage, they will stop it, immediately. They will stop it. They have to do some background check, and then they announce, I grew up like in in the Masaka, like in Shimanya, like even in Kampala, you hear people like making announcements, like the churches make announcements at the end of the mass. They announce people, who are intending to be married, who are preparing, matrimony. So, and then they ask you if there is any impediment, please come forward. Yes. Because they want the marriage to be solid. They want people to live, together until they die. Yes. Anyways, so I did some digging. What did I find out? Yes. Let's talk about the word, like divorce in a Catholic Church. I haven't found any, like statements saying that, it divorces. No, I haven't found that. Not clearly, anyways. What I found is an annulment. Annulment, yes. Yes. So, dears, if the Catholic Church, finds out that the marriage was not valid, I mean, which, like, built on false pretense, or it shouldn't have happened, then they can do what they call an annulment. Yes, dears. So, dears, this is not divorce. It states that, the marriage never took place. No, it never happened because it was built on false pretense. Yes. So it's not divorce. It's just, you never married. Even if it happened, a real sense, you thought you were married, but, the condition, the terms were not fulfilled. Yes. Let's see what happened. So let me give you an example of what can happen, that can lead to an annulment, Yes, imagine, a couple intending to get married. They talk it through, but then, one of them knows that they are not, is not intending, or she's not intending to get kids, while the other one thinks you're going to get married and have a normal family. But later find out that, the person doesn't want to get kids, so she doesn't want to get kids. So it means the marriage was built on deception. Yes, so later in the marriage, if this comes out, and really you know, you find out, people find, a couple find, one of them finds out that, you know, this was the intention from the beginning. It means, you know, the man or a woman, let me take the example of a man, was not open, it was not honest from the beginning. So it means the marriage was built on deception. Yes, so it means the marriage never happened. Yeah, there was no marriage. It was just, you know, deceit. You are not honest. Yes, I know. Another reason can be like psychological incapacity. Yes, these are the reasons, you know. And once, you know, the annulment papers are signed, couples are free. They are free to remarry, you know, marry, yeah, get other partners. Yes, just mark those what annulment, declaration of nullity. Yeah, that's they call it in the Catholic Church. Yes. So after the church, you know, investigation, of course, the church has to investigate, you know, about this. And then when they, you know, find out that that was the case, there was deception, then the marriage ends. Yeah. And actually, this means it's not divorce. You know, divorce, the marriage ends, but, you know, annulment is like, it was the marriage, it shouldn't have happened. You know, it never happened. There was no marriage from the beginning. Yes, dears. So with this, you know, when you're in this situation, you talk to your priest, and then the priest will try to talk, you know, with you or the couple, and then, yeah, if it doesn't help, maybe you make a petition, and then the church investigates about it and see what happens, what they decide. And once they annul, you marry, then you are free to move on or remarry. You marry someone else. Yes. If you have other, you know, opinions, if you know more, please just make a comment. As I said, I'm just gathering information. I'm not a specialist with this. It's just like I had to talk about it because people talk so much about divorce, you know, in the Catholic Church, that some people are mentioning that with divorce, yes, it's very hard to divorce in the Catholic Church. But, you know, I thought we need to talk about it, and I needed to talk about it since it's so always rubbed in my face. So, but, you know, a priest is, you know, a better person to talk about this, with all due respect. So just drop a comment and tell us about if you have seen this, you have experienced this. It's kind of, you know, interesting to know and learn. Yeah, just educate us. Yes, thank you for this time. Bye for now. You know, stay tuned on Mary Rail Sweden and Mary Rail Swedish chapters on YouTube. Yeah, stay tuned, dears. See you. Bye.